Let's talk about endurance road bikes then. That fantastic combination of speed and comfort. And I've tested many over the past few years, and in today's video, I'm going to pick my favorite ones, the ones I recommend you should consider if you're in the market for a new endurance bike in 2024. Now, some have speculated the death of endurance road bikes because of the rise of gravel bikes, and for many people a gravel bike might be a better choice. But if you have no interest in riding off-road and getting dirty and muddy, and you want more comfort than a road race bike, an endurance road bike is definitely worth considering. And there are some good options on the market, and while they all follow the same blueprint, they're not all the same. And that's why my reviews here on Just Ride Bikes are so useful to help you choose the right one for you, because what suits you might not suit somebody else, and vice versa. If you're watching this video, I could presume you know what an endurance road bike is, but just in case you don't, I'll go through the main changes and points of difference to a gravel and road race bike. Now, comfort is the name of the game here. That comes from both the fit on the bike, which is more relaxed, so a higher handlebar position that's shorter and closer to your body, so you're not as stretched out and low down as you are on a race bike. So more comfort for long rides, but less strain on your back, your shoulders and your neck, and that's great if you're a bit older, shall we say, or you're not as flexible like myself and can't maintain that aggressive aero race bike position for more than a few minutes. The other difference is the geometry in terms of the wheelbase, the head angle and the other measurements that make the whole ride experience a bit more relaxed and a bit calmer. So not quite as twitchy or agile as a race bike, and a bit easier to live with on a 100-mile sportive, say. The comfort also comes from space for wider tyres, and we're now up to 38 and 40mm tyre clearance on some bikes. We have changed a lot over the last few years, and also some bikes incorporate features into the frame that allow more comfort by building in compliance, suspension, or allowing parts of the bike to flex, whether carbon seat posts and handlebars, or actual features and suspension to give a smooth ride over rough roads and possibly cobbles. These bikes are usually more versatile as well, with mudguard mounts being common, and sometimes increasingly a few extra mounts for putting bags on the top tube and elsewhere on the frame. And we also have wider range, easier gears, because people riding bikes probably aren't as fit as the athletes we watch in the Tour de France, so you need a bit of help on some of the steeper gradients, and wider range, lower focus gears help in this regard. So compact chain rings and bigger cassettes, 1134 being a common option. So that is a general blueprint for an endurance road bike, but they're not all the same. They might go racier or bigger tired or in different directions, and that makes choosing the right one quite tricky. So let's dive into some of the best bikes I recommend in this category. Let's start with a giant Defy, a personal favorite, a winner of my 2023 awards. Link to that video above in case you missed it. And also just an easy bike to recommend because it does pretty much everything right. There are very few shortcomings on this bike. Firstly, it's great value for money. Giant always offers good value for money, and the components on the bike are always top notch. And it comes in 3 levels as well: Advanced, Advanced Pro and the SL, all sharing the same common features but getting lighter and fancier as you go up the scale. Now, a key change to the new model was space for wide tyres, so up to a 38mm wide tyre can fit, and all bikes come spec'd with 32, so bigger tyres, better for comfort and more traction on slippery wet roads. The Giant Defy definitely offers one of the sportier rides in this category thanks to the new and possibly improved geometry. It's not quite as upright and short as the old bike, a bit more aggressive, still more relaxed than the race bikes, but not quite as relaxed as some other endurance bikes we'll cover later in the video. So definitely a very sporty bike, has a race bike feeling, agility, very nimble. It's a bike that does encourage good speed over a rolling road and climbs very well too. It's very lightweight, down to 7 kilos in the top end build and even 7.5 in a mid-range build. That is race bike territory, so a lightweight bike, stiff frame and that sporty geometry. But we still have a long wheelbase and a slack head angle to give that nice measured, sure-footed stance you want on rough roads and fast descents, and when you're riding a long way and you're tired and fatigued and the bike can look after you. And then comfort from the Defy comes mainly from flexing carbon fibre seat posts and handlebar and the shape of the tube profiles and the rear stays. There are no features baked into the frame like suspension or compliance elements to give more comfort, and the ride is definitely on the firmer end of the endurance bike spectrum, but with wide tyres it does offer a ride that's smooth enough for most people, but not the smoothest ride in the world. But I think it strikes a nice balance really well. And now to a bike that offers a more relaxed fit and definitely a smooth ride than the giant Defy. It's a Specialized Roubaix. So a key feature on the Specialized Roubaix is the Future Shock underneath the stem, which gives amazing comfort through the handlebars. The way it isolates you from rough roads and cobbles is just fantastic. It does add weight to the whole bike though, so it's not the lightest bike in the world, and the stack is quite high, but if you want a nice high handlebar position, this is definitely a bike that ticks that box. It's also a bike with massive tyre clearance as well, taking up to a 40mm wide tyre, and as I found, you can fit some gravel tyres and ride it off-road just fine. And in some ways, it's very similar to their Diverge gravel bike. And you see that video comparison where I put some gravel tyres on a Roubaix linked right above. And then we have mudguard mounts, top tube mounts for an extra bag, a nice bendy carbon seat post that matches the comfort from the front end, and a bike that does deliver a very smooth, comfort-focused ride. But the only downside with Specialized is the value for money isn't as good as other brands like Giants and Canyons, but you are getting a good frame. And if the frame features appeal to you, then you might be able to overlook the low value for money the bike offers. The Trek Domane is a bike that offers amazing comfort in the saddle thanks to what they call the ISO-speed decoupler. You probably know about it, it's been around for a few years on their bikes now, but essentially it separates and isolates the seat tube and seat post from the frame to allow the saddle to move back and forth to give more comfort when you are riding over a rough road or cobblestones, and it does work really well. It probably offers the best comfort in the saddle of all the endurance bikes in this video. On the downside though, there's no ISO-speed decoupler at the front end, so the front end is firmer than the saddle experience and definitely not as smooth as a Specialized Roubaix. So definitely focus on saddle comfort rather than the balanced comfort from the handlebar to the saddle. But like the Specialized Roubaix, there's space for massive wide tyres, so you can fit a bigger tyre for more comfort that way, or fit a gravel tyre for some light gravel action as you can with a Roubaix. So a very versatile platform. Then there are mudguard mounts, extra frame mounts for bags and stuff as well. And my favourite feature is the down tube storage, something we are seeing on mountain bikes and gravel bikes, but now on road bikes as well. And it's a great idea for carrying all your spare parts, inner tubes, pumps, CO2 in the frame, so away from mud and rain and always on the bike when you need it. So really neat feature. The only downside to Trek Domane is it's not the lightest bike in the world. The new version is lighter than the old one, but not as light as other bikes like the Canyon or the Giant, for example. I was really impressed with the Canyon Endurace CFR, a fantastic endurance bike that tried very hard to be a race bike. Deep section wheels, one-piece carbon handlebar, good geometry, and it's a bike that delivers fantastic speed. Now there are some interesting features on this bike that are either a pro or a con depending on your point of view. Firstly, sadly, there are no mudguard mounts, so a blemish on its scorecard for me. There's only space for up to a 35mm wide tyre, and it comes spec with a 30mm wide tyre, so not as generous as the Roubaix or the Trek or the Giant. And then we have the top tube storage compartment for carrying your multi-tool and a spare tube. And it's a good idea, it does work, but I can't get my head over the looks of that system compared to the down tube storage on a Trek Domane. Now, if you don't mind the looks and you like the idea of internal storage, then it's a fantastic feature. Easy to access, always there when you need it, but for me, the looks are blemished by that feature. So definitely a dividing thing. That let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Would it stop you from buying that bike, or do you love that implementation of internal frame storage? But you could possibly overlook all that because the value for money from Canyon is fantastic. The CFR is a range topping fancy carbon fiber version I tested, but there is a CF-SLX, CF-SL, and there are aluminium options further down the range as well, so a bike to suit most budgets. To show that endurance bikes come in many different flavors, and some are super relaxed and some are almost race bikes, we have the Wilier GranTurismo SLR, which is probably one of the prettiest bikes I've reviewed over the last few years, and definitely one of the faster handling, sportier riding endurance bikes as well. And it rides really well too. The geometry isn't as laid back as a Specialized Roubaix or Trek Domane, and definitely feels closer to a race bike than most of the other bikes in this video, which is great if you like riding fast, but you need a bit more comfort, but not too much. But they haven't overlooked comfort in that pursuit of speed and sporty handling. And we have what they call the ActiFlex, a small elastomer separating the rear stays from the main frame. Now it doesn't give a lot of movement, it's not like rear suspension on a mountain bike, but it does give a noticeable smoothness over rough roads. And when I rode it in Belgium over cobbles, it definitely felt calmer and smoother over those rough roads and gave it more traction. It definitely made fatigue of the lower back less of an issue compared to firmer riding endurance bikes in a category. Now, pretty as a bike is and as well as it rides, before you rush out and buy it, there are a few small negatives worth knowing about. The first one is the lack of mudguard mount, which as a UK cyclist is a factor, and there's only space for up to 32mm wide tyres, which is not as wide as most other bikes in the category. If a 30 or 32 is as wide as you want to go, then fine. But if you want to go wider, 35, 38, then you're flat out of luck with the Wilier GranTurismo SLR. The Fairlight Strael is your reminder that carbon fibre isn't the only material if you want a smooth riding, comfort focused endurance bike. The Strael is made from Reynolds 853 tubing and is packed full of amazing, lovely details. One of the prettiest bikes in the world, in my unbiased opinion. It has space for up to 36mm wide tyres. There's mounts for everything from mudguards and racks and dynamos. The perfect long distance audax epic riding bike. And the Reynolds tubing gives amazing ride comfort and compliance to match any of the carbon bikes in this video, despite the lack of any features or gimmicks to impart more comfort and smoothness on the ride experience. And one of the best features of the Strael is the range of sizes on offer, with 2 stack heights per size, a tall and regular. So you can buy a 56 with a low or tall head tube to suit your fit requirements. And that makes finding the right fit for you much easier, and no other brand I know of has that range of options, so that is very impressive from such a small company. And the way the Fairlight rides matches the way it looks. It's just elegant, lovely ride manners, very calm, very assured, sure-footed handling. It will be heavier, of course, and it will hold you back on the climbs if you are smashing up the climbs, but for all-day ride comfort, for sportives, audaxes, touring, it's a fantastic choice, and definitely an interesting choice if you're put off by all the carbon fibre featured in the video so far. The J.Laverack J.ACK is a lovely titanium, all-season, all-day long riding bike. There are quite a few Thai bikes you could mention, Moots at the expensive handmade end, Enigma as well, Riley, quite a few others. But the J.ACK is a bike I've ridden in the past and it's always impressed me. There's space for wide tyres up to 38mm. There are mounts, eyelets for everything, from mudguards to racks, dynamos, and you can customise the bike as well, from the finish to the components and all the other features on the bike too. And titanium rides so nicely, and it does live up to all the hype. There is a lot of hype around titanium and the way it rides and magical qualities and all that sort of stuff, but it does ride really well. It's lighter than steel of that Fairlight earlier, but gives a more sprightly, more keen character when you're riding in a spirited way. So definitely a good option for a lightweight, durable, tough riding material, and definitely a good rival to any carbon bike in my opinion. And then of course there's a timeless look, no paint to scratch or wear off, and it will last and look the same way for many, many years to come. The Vitus Venon Evo RS is a really interesting endurance road bike. One the company has designed from the outset to be either an endurance road bike with 2x and slick tyres, or a gravel bike with chunky tyres and 1x. So a really versatile package, and it has been designed from the outset to be 2 bikes in one. That person who wants 1 bike, 1 frame, but 2 sets of wheels and tyres for road and gravel. And we are increasingly seeing people use gravel bikes as endurance road bikes and vice versa, endurance bikes as gravel bikes, and some do both really well and some don't. But Vitus has designed this bike from the beginning to be both, and it definitely isn't a jack of all trades and a master of none. It works really well as a gravel bike and as a road bike. But focusing on a road bike, we had that relaxed geometry, more relaxed fit, nice long wheelbase, slack head angle, and it works well when you are riding on the road at a decent speed. Then we have a nice carbon frame, spacer wide tyres, mudguard mounts as well, and an aero inspiration as well. Good comfort, good compliance from the frame, plenty of stiffness for more spirited riding as well, and good value for money as well, because you can get a fantastic option, a great deal on a bike with a good specification from Wiggle Chain Reaction Cycles, which own Vitus. Next up, we have the Cannondale Synapse, which for the last 10 years has been one of my all-time favourite bikes. Not just endurance road bikes, but all road bikes. And on my top 10 list of best bikes of all time, the Synapse is definitely on there. But that was for the last generation, which looked amazing and rode really nicely as well. And the new version, if we remove one key feature from it, rides extremely well. Definitely faster, a bit firmer, a bit sportier than the outgoing version, but space for 35mm wide tyres, so definitely good comfort from the bike. Doesn't feel as smooth as the old bike, but definitely more taut and firm and stiff, so definitely a racier endurance bike than before, but the same classic geometry that's nice and relaxed, nice stack to reach ratio, just works well in all situations. But sadly, when they designed the new bike, that wasn't enough. They added the now controversial Smart Sense, a battery on a down tube powering both a front and rear light and a rear radar going to a Garmin computer at the front. Now, in theory, it's great. It's a great idea. Daytime running lights are very popular, but the idea of being forced into technology, if you don't want it, was a stretch too far. And sadly, the Synapse, as a result, hasn't been as popular as it should have been. So if you can live with that, and you don't mind it, then it's a great bike. But I know the Smart Sense has put a lot of people off. But hopefully we might see something in the future to amend this and put the Synapse back to near the top of the leaderboard where it should be. And hopefully we might see something fairly soon on that front. I have no idea if that's actually happening, but that's what I want to see. I want to see a Synapse without Smart Sense, because it's a fantastic bike. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Now, I do realise there are quite a few bikes I haven't mentioned in this video, and that's mainly because I haven't reviewed their bikes yet. The new Focus Paralane, the Merida Sculptura Endurance, the Cube Offering, and many others I've forgotten to mention as well. But I hopefully will review their bikes in the future, and if they are good and they impress me, then I will update the video and include their bikes as well. It's just me, I don't have time to ride all the bikes in the world as much as I try to, but definitely let me know which bikes I have missed and which you think are worth considering for inclusion in my update on this video in the future by leaving a comment down below. So if you want to see a playlist of all the bikes I've mentioned so far, then watch the playlist video right up here. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this on a regular basis, do make sure to hit that button right there. But that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.